Good afternoon, this is Mark Demian with Rathbone Group. I am here, honored to be here, with Robert Stern,
Thank you.
the incoming president of NASP. We are at the 2023 annual conference. Rob has been teaching a class session here on negotiation for years and years at NASP, and he just completed his last session to present.
Yes.
So I thought it'd be a great opportunity for he and I to talk about something that's near and dear to our hearts in negotiation, and talk a little bit about your background too.
Sure.
And your future going forward
Sure.
with NASP as our incoming president.
Sure.
Rob, when you think about if you were just to teach this class to incoming new lawyers,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about your maybe 2 or 3 or 4 keys to an effective negotiation.
So thank you for having me, of course. And when I address a negotiation seminar, the one I did here or when I do it outside, I do it to incoming attorneys or younger attorneys and also to claims representatives. Usually we focus on the 7 P's of negotiation, and I'm not going to go through them now. We don't have time, but I'll just touch on some. And the first one I want to talk about is planning, 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 and preparation, preparation, preparation. They are not the same, and both need to be treated the same. Another P is pace, and another P is personality, which are also just as important. But if you think about a negotiation in the world of real estate, location, 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 planning, planning, planning is the key. Without proper planning, your negotiation will not be as effective and have the outcome that you were hoping for, or the best outcome that you could have possibly had without properly planning. So that's the first and big key point.
I'm a big believer in failing to prepare is preparing to fail.
Yes.
Some really important people I didn't just make that up, other important people have said that. So what's involved in planning or preparing in your mind?
So what I handle are insurance claims, right? Those are our clients. I'm subrogation attorney. And looking at a claim, I would look at the claim for all the pros and cons from my perspective. I'd list them, identify them, think of my weaknesses and my strengths, which are different than my pros and cons of a claim, and give valuations to each point or factor I could figure out. And then I put the other hat on. I put the hat on of my adversary, who's going to be on the other side of the table, and look at it from their perspective. Look at their claim from their perspective, what I think they would consider to be their pros and cons, their strengths and weaknesses. And now I have valuations to those factors I've identified. And then the third piece that I like to identify is now I don't pretend I'm them. I'm back to being the subrogation attorney, and I look at their side from my point of view. What do I think are their strengths and weaknesses? Because what I may consider to be their strengths and weaknesses may be something different than what the person on the other side thinks are their strengths and weaknesses. And now I've prepared for all the issues or topics that can occur when I'm in this negotiation, so there's less likely to be a surprise.
Right, and I believe, and I think you said this in your presentation, that you're prepared for another alternative. You're prepared
Right.
for if something goes poorly or against something, another thought that you had going in. You have an alternative. You have to be prepared for what's your best alternative to not negotiating a resolution.
Right, so you have your BATNA, which is best alternative to negotiated agreement, and your WATNA, the worst alternative to negotiate. So what happens if you fail? If it doesn't turn out that way, what could happen? You're preparing for both sides of the coin. And that's why one is preparation, knowing your case, knowing what could be their case. The second is planning. Okay, now I have to think of my strategies and techniques that I'm going to use at this negotiation to hopefully result in an amicable resolution based upon what I determined at the preparation stage.
I love that you used words like what happens, the techniques you use when you're planning and such. One thing that I was really impressed with that you presented on is something we as human beings don't do very well, listening.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about what you mean by that and how that can help us be better negotiators.
Sure. So look, I'm a certified mediator in New Jersey, and so one of the things that we're taught is how to listen to the parties, how to take that information to keep the parties moving forward to an amicable resolution. Well, if mediators are using that technique, why should an advocate? Why should we not also use that technique when we don't have a mediator and we're negotiating one-on-one? Or even if we're at a mediation, to listen to the other side. Sometimes when you're being a passive listener, or you're listening to the other side intently, the other side believes that they have the power. They're educating you. Even though they may be saying nothing new to you at all, you know everything, but it makes them feel better, it makes them feel that they're in control. That'll build a bond with you and them, and it could be used, and you can help them, move them to where you need them to be.
You talk a lot about rapport, building
Yes.
rapport. Is that an example of building rapport, by listening,
Yes.
and understanding, and allowing someone to be heard?
Absolutely.
Oftentimes that's what they want. They simply want to be heard. No
That-
one's ever really listened to me.
Yeah.
So by using that skill, you are ingratiating yourself to that person.
You catch more flies with honey. So that doesn't just mean being nice and kind to somebody. It also means, what would you do to advance the relationship? So if you have a significant other in your personal life and you're talking and there's an issue that has come up, are you just going to cut them off and be aggressive, or are you going to listen and let them say their side? Well, if you're going to you could cut them off, but it won't get you anywhere, certainly, and it's going to backfire. And if it doesn't backfire this time, they're going to remember it for the next time. It just doesn't get you to the best outcome.
Well, Rob, let's quickly then switch. We only have a couple of minutes
Sure.
left here to your tenure as upcoming president-elect. I think we were all gushed a little bit yesterday when you mentioned your wife
Yes.
being with you. I think that's the first wife or spouse has attended a NASP conference when their spouse was being inducted
Yes.
as the president-elect. You mentioned some of your platform
Yes.
that you intend to do. Could you just give us a capsule summary of what that is?
Absolutely.
And going forward,
Sure.
what we can expect?
So I actually hope to have two platforms I've articulated. The first is continuing with our present president, who will be our past president of the board. Her platform was networking. And so networking is very important to me, and that's more, in my mind, more than just getting a new client, getting a new service provider, getting a new person to work with. For me, networking really is building relationships with people, whether you're going to work with them in business or not. And of course, networking includes the other things that quickly come to mind to people. The second platform that I'm having is education, because I believe that the more education everybody has, it will advance the entire community. Not just me, not just you, but all of us as a whole.
We look forward to that. Speaking about education, I think you've just done a wonderful job of educating all of us in negotiation.
Thank you.
We look forward to the next year coming up. Thank you for being with us today, Rob.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And thank you, my firm, Derrevere Stevens, for letting me do this. Thank you.
So that is the long and short of it.